Listen up, because what I'm about to tell you might be the biggest bombshell in women's basketball history. The Wall Street Journal just dropped an article that's sending shockwaves through the sports world. And if you're a Caitlin Clark fan, you need to hear this. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, because this story is developing by the minute, and you don't want to miss what happens next. The WNBA might be facing a federal investigation for violating Caitlin Clark's civil rights. Yeah, you heard that right. We're not talking about bad calls or rough play anymore. We're talking about potential congressional hearings, Justice Department probes, and legal action that could shake the league to its core. And honestly, it's about time someone said what we've all been thinking. Let me paint you a picture of what's really happening here. Caitlin Clark isn't just getting fouled hard. She's getting targeted, hunted, and systematically abused while the league turns a blind eye. The numbers don't lie, folks. Clark absorbed 17% of all flagrant fouls last season. That's double the rate of any other player. Double. And not a single player has been suspended for flagrantly fouling her. Not one. Former White House advisor Sean McClain just called for the federal government to step in, writing in the Wall Street Journal that Clark faces a textbook hostile work environment. Those aren't my words. That's legal terminology that could trigger a massive investigation under Title VII of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. We're talking about the same laws that protect workers from discrimination based on race. And here's where it gets spicy. A'ja Wilson, one of the league's biggest stars, literally said out loud that race is a huge thing and it boils her blood when people say it's not about race. Well, congratulations, A'ja. You just gave federal investigators exactly what they need to open a case. Because when you admit that race is a factor in how a player is treated, you've just opened the door to civil rights violations. Sophie Cunningham, Clark's teammate and new enforcer, isn't holding back anymore. She went from having 400,000 TikTok followers to over 1.2 million in just days after defending Clark. Why? Because she's saying what everyone's thinking. The star player of the league is not being protected, she told reporters. And get this, Cunningham revealed that when she played for Phoenix, they had actual locker room meetings about how they were going to show Caitlin what the W really is. That's not basketball. That's a conspiracy to create a hostile work environment. The evidence is overwhelming. Rebecca Lobo, one of the most respected analysts in women's basketball, watched replays of Clark being fouled multiple times in a single possession and said every single one of them is a foul. This isn't bad officiating. This is deliberate negligence that's putting Clark's career and health at risk. Remember when DJ Carrington literally poked Clark in the eye? Clark was lucky she didn't lose her vision. And what happened to Carrington? A slap on the wrist. Marina Mabrey body slammed Clark from behind. No suspension. The pattern is so obvious that even casual fans are screaming at their TVs. But here's the kicker. And this is where it gets really interesting. There are now rumors that Clark might be faking her recent groin injury, not because she's soft, but because she's sending a message to the league. And boy, is that message being received loud and clear. When Clark doesn't play, ratings drop 55%. The All-Star game without her, down 36%. The league just signed a $2.2 billion media deal with NBC Universal, and everyone knows it's because of one player, Caitlin Clark. The Wall Street Journal article compares this to what the NBA did for Michael Jordan. They literally changed rules to protect him. The NFL created new regulations to keep Tom Brady safe. But the WNBA, they're treating their golden goose like a punching bag. It's not just bad business. According to legal experts, it might be criminal. Senator Jim Banks already sent a letter to Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, demanding answers about Clark's treatment. The article suggests Congress should hold hearings and demand reform. Can you imagine Kathy Engelbert and Adam Silver sitting in front of Congress, trying to explain why they allowed this to happen? I'd pay good money to watch that testimony. The legal precedent is crystal clear. In Harris v. Forklift Systems from 1993, the Supreme Court defined hostile work environment as severe or pervasive conduct that alters working conditions. Check. In Texas Department of Community Affairs v. Burdine, the court said employees can claim less favorable treatment due to race. Check. The burden then shifts to the employer to prove there's no discrimination. Good luck with that, WNBA. And it gets worse for the league. The article mentions that if the feds find evidence of discrimination or retaliation, the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division must act. We're talking about the same department that just made Columbia University pay $221 million for civil rights violations. The WNBA doesn't have that kind of money. Hell, they lost $40 million last year. Sophie Cunningham put it best when she said anyone who doesn't think Clark is the face of the league is dumb as fuck. She's not being mean. She's being honest. The numbers speak for themselves. Viewership up 366%. App engagement up 613%. Merchandise sales up 601%. All because of one player. But here's what really gets me fired up. Remember those t-shirts at the All-Star game that said, "Pay us what you owe us"? The irony is thicker than a referee's rulebook. The league owes its entire existence to Caitlin Clark right now, and they're letting her get assaulted on the court. Kelsey Plum laughed about how 0 members of Team Clark were at the meeting where they decided to wear those shirts. You know why? Because Clark was probably getting x-rays for another injury caused by dirty play. The comparison to Jackie Robinson is apt, but there's one huge difference. When Robinson broke the color barrier, at least the league eventually protected him. Clark is breaking barriers too. She's showing that women's basketball can be must-see TV. And her reward? Getting clotheslined every other game while refs check their phones. Let me tell you about Sophie Cunningham for a minute, because this woman deserves her flowers. She's a black belt in Taekwondo, earned it when she was 6 years old. She was the first female to score points for her high school football team. And now, she's become Clark's bodyguard, and fans are here for it. Her jersey sold out in hours after she defended Clark. Every adult size, gone. That's what happens when you stand up for what's right. The Wall Street Journal article warns that Clark is a flagrant foul away from a career-ending injury. That's not hyperbole. That's a legitimate concern based on what we've seen. And if that happens, kiss that $2.2 billion TV deal goodbye. Networks aren't paying for Aja Wilson highlights. Sorry, not sorry. Here's what I think is really happening. The old guard of the WNBA is jealous. Plain and simple. They played in empty arenas for decades, and here comes this young woman filling stadiums and breaking the internet. Instead of embracing her and riding the wave, they're trying to break her. It's like watching crabs in a bucket, pulling down the one that's trying to climb out. The federal investigation threat isn't just talk. The article mentions that the Trump administration has shown willingness to demand change in sports. They've proposed federal standards for NCAA athletics and launched task forces. If they can go after colleges for Title IX violations, they can definitely go after a professional sports league for creating a hostile work environment. And let's talk about the Olympics snub for a second. Clark led the league in assists and shattered all-star voting records with 1.29 million votes. But she ranked 9th among guards on the player ballot. Dick Vitale called it pure jealousy, and he's absolutely right. The selection committee included league executives and former players who clearly had an agenda. That's not just petty. That's potential evidence of institutional discrimination. The WNBA leadership should be protecting Clark like she's made of gold, because financially, she is. Instead, they're treating her like a PR problem. Sheila Johnson, owner of the Washington Mystics, actually questioned why Clark was Time's Athlete of the Year. Really, Sheila? You own a team that benefits from Clark's popularity and you're still hating? That's like McDonald's complaining about the Big Mac being too popular. You know what's really wild? The article suggests that Congress might reconsider the WNBA's special privileges, including antitrust exemptions and broadcast considerations. For those who don't know, that's the nuclear option. Sports leagues guard those exemptions like their lives depend on it, because financially, they do. The NFL is already playing nice with the incoming administration because they know this threat is real. The Labor Department could review the league's workplace safety protocols. Think about that. We might see OSHA investigating basketball games. Ma'am, I'm going to need to see your flagrant foul incident reports for the past 2 years. It sounds ridiculous, but that's where we're headed if the league doesn't get its act together. Meanwhile, Sophie Cunningham is out here speaking truth to power. She admitted that even when she was on Phoenix, she knew about the conversations they were having about targeting Clark. "We're going to show her what the W really is," she quoted. That's premeditation, folks. That's conspiracy. In any other workplace, HR would be having a field day. The fact that ratings plummet without Clark isn't just a business problem. It's evidence of disparate impact. When one employee's presence or absence dramatically affects the entire operation, and that employee is being systematically mistreated, lawyers start seeing dollar signs. The WNBA created this monster by allowing the abuse, and now they might pay the price. Christine Brennan's new book, On Her Game, apparently goes even deeper into this controversy. She followed Clark for 6 weeks and documented everything. That's going to be Exhibit A if this goes to court. Every hard foul, every missed call, every player saying something stupid about race, it's all evidence now. The players who keep targeting Clark don't seem to understand they're not just hurting her, they're hurting themselves. Every cheap shot is another piece of evidence for a federal investigation. Every time a ref swallows their whistle, it's another example of the league failing to provide a safe workplace. They're literally building the case against themselves. And can we talk about the hypocrisy for a second? The same players wearing "pay us what you owe us" shirts are the ones trying to injure the player who's actually generating the revenue to pay them more. It's like they're trying to kill the golden goose while asking for more eggs. Make it make sense. The Wall Street Journal article isn't some random opinion piece. It's a warning shot. When a major financial publication starts talking about civil rights violations in sports, smart executives pay attention. But what are Engelbert and Silver doing? Pretending everything's fine while their biggest star gets mauled every game. Here's my prediction. If the feds do investigate, it's going to be ugly. They'll subpoena emails, text messages, and internal communications. They'll interview players, coaches, and officials. And when they find what we all know they'll find, evidence of systematic targeting based on race, heads will roll. The league has a choice. They can start protecting Caitlin Clark right now, today, or they can wait for the federal government to force them to do it. One option saves face and maybe salvages their reputation. The other ends with congressional hearings, massive fines, and possibly criminal charges. Sophie Cunningham gets it. That's why she's willing to take a flagrant foul and get ejected to protect her teammate. She knows what's at stake. She's seen the locker room conversations, heard the jealous comments, watched the targeted attacks, and she's done playing nice. The revolution Sophie talked about isn't just about women's basketball becoming popular, it's about standing up to the bullies, calling out the corruption, and demanding justice. Caitlin Clark didn't ask to be a civil rights icon, but that's what she's become. And Sophie Cunningham? She's her Rosa Parks, refusing to sit quietly while injustice happens. You want to know the truth? This was always bigger than basketball. This is about what happens when excellence threatens mediocrity, when success exposes failure, when one person's light makes everyone else's dimness obvious. The WNBA old guard can't handle that Clark changed the game without their permission. But here's the beautiful irony. By trying to destroy her, they've made her stronger. Every cheap shot creates more fans. Every missed call generates more outrage. Every injury leads to more articles like the one in the Wall Street Journal. They've turned Caitlin Clark from a basketball player into a movement. The federal investigation isn't a matter of if, it's when. The evidence is too overwhelming, the pattern too obvious, the stakes too high. And when it happens, remember where you heard it first. Remember who stood up for what was right. Remember Sophie Cunningham throwing down for her teammate and gaining 1 million followers overnight. This isn't ending anytime soon. In fact, it's just beginning. The Wall Street Journal article is the first domino. Congressional letters are next, then hearings, then investigations, then consequences. The WNBA wanted to play rough? Well, they're about to find out what happens when you mess with generational talent in the age of social media and federal oversight. The league has one last chance to make this right. Protect Caitlin Clark. Punish the dirty players. Fire the incompetent refs. Show some leadership. Or watch your sport burn down while lawyers and politicians pick through the ashes. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Share this with every basketball fan you know, because this story is about to explode. The civil rights investigation of the WNBA might be the biggest sports scandal of the decade, and you're watching it unfold in real time. Until next time, keep supporting the players who deserve it and calling out the ones who don't. Peace out!